Vivek Murthy. He is the former U.S. Surgeon General. He served two different stints. He covered Obama, Trump, and Biden. And he wrote once in the Harvard Business Review the following: "During my years caring for patients, the most common pathology I saw was not heart disease, it was not diabetes, it was loneliness." The United Kingdom a couple of years ago was the first country to establish what they called a minister for loneliness. Time magazine had a title that put it bluntly, said, "British people are so lonely, they now have a minister for loneliness." Many countries have followed suit in the last couple of years since the UK have established entire departments to in their government, and their role is to track, measure, and try to fix this loneliness. It's hard to argue that we don't have a loneliness epidemic as being penned. You know, we live in a world now that has been shaped by decades of a steady stream of extreme individualism. And in recent years, with technology and social media, and now that AI has arrived, there's opportunity, of course, for things to get worse on this front. It doesn't have to get worse, but it's a safe bet to say that it probably will. So there's some of us here right now, and you're maybe in a particularly lonely season in your life. And there's others of us here in the pew who may say, like, I never feel lonely. And to that, I just want to that latter one, I just want to say this. That used to be me. I was just telling someone the other day that when someone related to me that they were feeling lonely, that I was never able to relate to them. Like I never felt ever that I was alone. And what I've realized over the last number of years for me, that was not necessarily a good thing. Because what I realized that there were areas and parts of my heart where I was just disconnected from my emotions. I could just stay busy. And ultimately, disconnected to the emotions, staying busy, ultimately it was a reluctance to enter into a deeper spot of vulnerability, a deeper spot of intimacy, and deeper spot of love. And this is what the Ascension is all about. And it's the reason why the Ascension is one of the keys, I think, to unlocking this loneliness epidemic that we're in. Because it's what our hearts crave for, is deeper vulnerability, deeper intimacy, deeper love. And the Ascension, the doctrine of Ascension, what we celebrate today, one of the elements of the doctrine of the Ascension says is that we can have we can have relational intimacy with Jesus because he makes himself radically available to us. Now, I want to there's an important distinction to make the difference between loneliness and isolation and alienation. Okay, isolation and alienation, it's an objective reality. It's an external reality where we're cut off from another. We're socially disconnected. And as I mentioned, we're seeing more and more of this with social media, AI, increased isolation. I was mentioning to someone that earlier this week, me using ChatGPT, I found myself saying thank you and please to it. Okay, that's a sign that that the increased loneliness thing is going to happen. Okay, but since the fall, the isolation and alienation has taken place. Isolation and alienation with God. We can have alienation with others, and we can have alienation even with ourselves. See, but loneliness is more than just being alone. Loneliness is like an interior ache. The feeling of being unseen, maybe at times, or not known or unloved. And we know this, right? You can be surrounded by people. You can be with tons of people and still be with no one. Right? You can be with a whole bunch of people at a party, a crowded classroom. You can even at times be with your spouse, but not be with anyone. And like still feel that there's parts of your heart that's not known or seen. And you can even be like united with God. Think of the tradition here with like Mother Teresa of Calcutta, St. John of the Cross, describing periods of desolation or dryness, where even though like I'm praying, I'm with God, I feel alone, not loved, not seen by God. And even Jesus himself, who was, as the scriptures say, like us in all things but sin, the garden at Gethsemane, his agony in the garden, going back to his inner cycle of the three, won't you come and stay with me, and dropping the sweats of blood. The reality is our hearts are a complicated place. Oftentimes our hearts are unknown even to ourselves. The late Tim Keller put it this way. He says, your insides, the movements and motions of your heart are so complex, they're so inward, and they're so hidden that there's an irreducible, unavoidable solitude about human existence. Nobody will ever completely understand you. This is why a personal, intimate, heart-sharing relationship with Jesus is so important. That even those areas, as Tim Keller says, the irreducible, unavoidable solitude, the parts that are hidden, God sees you, understands even those parts. And see, the Ascension makes this possible. The text here today, what we see as it's 40 days after Jesus has died. He's still with the disciples. He's in the flesh, but now he departs. He ascends to heaven. And the text says they did him homage as he departed up. They did him homage and they returned to Jerusalem, what? With great joy. You'd expect them to feel abandoned or even or sad with Jesus leaving. But they had joy with Jesus leaving because they were convicted of a closeness, a new presence that was coming. I mean, look, like before the Ascension, if you wanted to be near Jesus, you had to be physically where he was. You had to walk on the same road that he was walking on. You had to sit next to him on the boat where he was sitting on the boat. But now with the Ascension, Jesus is no longer limited to one place or one time. He is radically available to you. Do you believe that? Do I? Like if someone were to follow you, if someone were to be in your head today or tomorrow, back to work, if someone would be in your head the rest of today, or they were able to see your heart, or to hear the conversations in your head the rest of today and tomorrow, throughout the day, whatever's going on, whenever maybe you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or something happened, email comes and there's anxiety comes up, or you think of this or you think of that, there's anxiousness, a sense of maybe parts of your heart being not known, not loved. At those exact moments, would the person who's watching you, hearing the thoughts in your head, would they see you in those moments when they come up? Would they see you turn to him and talk to him and enter into relationship with him and receive at a very deep level? A lot of times we don't do that. I cannot do that. It can be because we're not we're not actually convinced that he's there, or we're not sure that we want to turn to him there. And that's where the diversions come. Taking out the phone. I want to avoid that spot. And that's why the tradition has always talked about the importance of, it says, like, enduring the pain of loneliness long enough to await the communion of God. Awaiting the pain of loneliness and sitting with it long enough to invite and to receive the communion of God and to receive him very deeply. This is what Jesus offers because of the ascension. Okay, if you wanted to see your doctor today, good luck. It'd be like a week. If you wanted to see a specialist, you had something going on with your shoulder or something, you'd be waiting a month. This is the God of the universe who knows those spots, who's created you. You can turn to him. He's not booked. And you don't need to say a perfect prayer for it to happen. It's just a slight turning of your heart, just slight move and turn of my attention to him. Jesus, come. Parts of me maybe feel alone right now or anxious right now. Come, Jesus. And then await his presence, await his coming. You know, we don't need a surgeon general to tell us that the world is hurting, world is lonely, alienated, isolated. In the years ahead, it's a good chance it's probably going to get worse. I hope that these government things that are being established, they figure out on a macro level things that help with regards to family unit. And we're going to talk more about that in a couple of weeks on the Feast of Holy Trinity with regards to the alienation and isolation. I hope those things work that the government establishes, but what is most needed are people who have encountered the radical availability of Jesus and who know the relational intimacy with him, that then can go out into a world that is hurting, who is lonely, alienated, and isolated, and can introduce them to the person of Jesus.